Hello, everyone. My name's Ranston, and what I have for you here today is my attempt at something silly. Uh, we are trying to see if we can't clear the treasure dungeon with White Mage solo. This kind of came about as I was doing the Dark Knight solo attempts, which that project is also in the works. So don't worry about that. The content is on its way for Dark Knight still. However, I was thinking to myself a bit, and a thought came to mind that the only real requirement is that you just have to survive the initial damage from all the enemies in the treasure dungeon, and you also have to be able to just out heal it. That's the current struggle with Dark Knight, for example, is that while you can survive a lot of the damage, your healing's very limited, so that's where a lot of that challenge comes from. So, I figured if healing's a very major component of this, is there a healer that can actually solo the entire dungeon? And I just so happen to have White Mage leveled up as my first job for this attempt. So here we get the two separate waves of 4 enemies. The first wave's not a problem at all, but this wave will give you some more difficulty. I do stick to just trying to dot everything. Obviously use Holy to cut down the enemies, but you'll want to kind of just go through your rotation as normal. I'm sure for a lot of healer mains, this won't be something that's too difficult, but you can see there, like, I cut it super close, almost got myself killed immediately. And I think at some point I start putting enemies to sleep. Now, sleep does work on every enemy. I don't believe it's going to work on the final enemy, but out here it'll provide value with trying to deal with these mobs. So you're not dead. Just trying to get into the dang dungeon. Essentially, what will end up happening here is that the timer will be close. You'll probably have some leeway on if you have enough time to actually do this or not. I do recommend having a chocobo out in order to help you with extra damage. But besides all that, just keep your dots up, make sure you're prioritizing your health, and you should be able to clear this pack in the allotted time frame. I have not been able to experiment with the other packs, so I believe the boss one, where it spawns one enemy and then has 2 waves of reinforcements. I think that one's going to be the hardest because you'll want to drop it low enough to 40% health, I believe, or it might be 30 for Overworld. And if it's at 30% health, then you'll spawn all the enemies at once, and that'll be how you actually end up clearing the floor, it's the map and the timer itself, because otherwise you might not have enough damage to clear everything in time, which was an old problem trying to solo maps at a lower item level before. So I'm gonna skip ahead here to when we get to the actual treasure dungeon itself. Once you've dealt with all the overworld mobs, hope for a portal, and, well, this is where the challenge actually begins. Now, the first floor itself is nothing that's all that tricky. None of the enemies are going to hit you for particularly hard. You can't just AFK it. You do need to pay quite a bit of attention. But you don't have to do anything fancy. You can just dot everything, AoE everything down, heal yourself on occasionally. You might use your Lily Bell if you want to, just to keep some passive healing while you're doing damage. There's a lot of multiple ways you can go about actually trying to clear the floor. But as long as you're doing just normal damage healing rotation, you'll be fine. We're going to go ahead and just skip right to the end and go on to the next door here. And as we kick off the second fight here, a few things to note with this mob. Obviously, it just interrupted my spellcast, so from this floor onwards, every mini boss, as I like to call them, does actually interrupt your spellcasting on occasion. Uh, this doesn't matter as much for damage attacks, but if you're relying on a crucial heal, you'll might want to make sure you have your Surecast up in order to not die. Now, the mob itself will spawn a wave of enemies at 70% HP, and then the final wave at 30% HP. These, because of the damage output from everything, I decide to just kill the first wave as it spawns up, similar to how I handled my Gunbreaker clear video. Because otherwise you'll just end up taking too much damage, it's a lot of mobs to manage, and also you can only put one target to sleep at a time per cast. Now if you were a caster, like say Red Mage, you could put them to sleep in a group and then pick them off one by one if you needed to do that, but what I end up doing here is I try to dot everything, I start trying to go through Holy, and I realized, you know what, I need to put that target to sleep. I did fuck up, because I immediately casted my Holy, and I forgot about the delay, so I broke my initial sleep and lost 30 seconds of freedom to just damage these mobs, and I have cut my available time in half. It's not going to matter too much here because I'm able to recover, even though obviously I'm cutting it rather close. But that's what I mean, you can't just AFK things. I am not that confident as a healer, especially if we're doing this damage content solo. So your results will probably be much better than mine. Now on this floor there's not much more to talk about, so we're just going to clear up the remaining ads here, and then we'll jump on ahead to the next door event. Now, as we arrive at the third floor here, a few things to note. Since we're fighting two mini-bosses, they both will have a chance of interrupting your spell casting. So just keep an eye on that, and don't be at critical health if you have to cast a major spell to heal yourself. The only other thing to consider is that these mobs will spawn enemies at 50% HP. So your best bet is to just focus down one, and then kill that one with the ads that it spawns, and then swap to the other one. Again, this is a very slow way of actually clearing everything, and because I am taking more damage, you're seeing me trying to keep my regens up. I'm not relying on just like Cure or the White Lilies. I am trying to use regen to also help heal myself while trying to put out extra damage. And I'm actually going to fast forward this part here just to get us to the first wave of additional enemies spawning in, so we can go over how you'll want to tackle this wave that spawns. Once these ads spawn in, I do put both of the big mobs to sleep. I accidentally caught them at the end there of my size. But you just want to try to keep at least one of them, if not both of them, asleep while you're dealing with everything. You might be able to get away with keeping the big one awake and using Holy, or you might want to keep it asleep as well, and then just deal with the ads separately. There's definitely more ways I could have handled this far more efficiently. Now we're going to go ahead and skip ahead here since this is just cleaving down enemies. Actually, there is one more thing that I forgot to talk about that's very important for this floor that I discovered while clearing this, because truthfully, when do we ever use sleep in normal content? Like, I'm pretty sure my friend had to give me a reminder that it was used during Shadowbringers for the job quests, and even that I don't remember using sleep for that. Anyhow, so one of the things about sleep is that you can apply your dots to a target and then put it to sleep. I don't know if it just has a chance of waking up your target with every dot tick, or if it'll stay asleep and the entire dot will go through while sleep is active. Uh, if I kept my target as a focus target, I'd know that for sure, but that was something I noticed while trying to clear the red mob. And also, my luck is bullshit. On the third floor, I was able to get a Figmental Coffer, and I also got the frickin' roulette. Uh, I was in a panic here. I didn't know what was the best option to actually go with because these things are expensive as hell. So I decided to just keep one. Would you guys have kept it, or should I have gambled it? And here we are at the second to last floor. Uh, this floor is very similar to the second floor, especially because Dawntrail made changes to how this floor spawns enemies compared to the Treasure Dungeon and Endwalker and Shadowbringers. So, for this floor, it still gets your enemy down to 70% HP, and then the next wave will also spawn at 30% HP. So, this boss just hits a little bit harder. The ads also hit a little bit harder, but the strategy is the exact same. You're going to drop this down to 70% HP, kill all the ads in the next group that spawn, put this target to sleep, and then move on to the next group. So since there's not much more to talk about on this floor, what I'm going to do is just fast forward the footage in the background and let you guys actually see the full clear on this floor itself. And we'll see what comes up next with the next door event. And so we have made it to the 5th floor. Now, is this possible on floor 5? Probably. The issue is that I, not being a very good healer, definitely used my cooldowns at the wrong order. And there's something I didn't think about that I didn't have to worry about on my tanks all that much up to this point, because all my tanks can survive the tank busters and the auto attacks and not be left at low HP. My white mage definitely cannot do that. So you'll have to, of course, handle normal mechanics from the boss as you would any other time. When the tank buster comes up, what I should have done was pop my wings in the shield that my wings have instead of using Aqua Veil first here. It might not actually matter, but I think using my wings would have been better to start with. But as you can see there, I got dropped to super low HP. I didn't have my benediction up. I was able to heal myself to full, but I almost died to the auto attack that followed. And that's the crux of the issue, is that I am fighting this boss in melee range when I'm tanking these tank busters. So what ends up happening on this tank buster is while I have the wings and the shield, I do survive the initial hit, but I also take the auto attack from the boss at the same time. So the combination of the two attacks actually kills me, because there's no way of surviving that much damage. Now, I don't know if technically I took the auto first and then the tank buster, or the tank buster and then the auto, but because they both went off at the same time, what I should have done was, as soon as I see the tank buster come up, back away from the boss and then try to fight the boss further from there. So, I don't know if that changes anything in the grand schemes of the fight. I have not been able to attempt this again since, because I've been busy dealing with other projects. But, what do you guys think? Is this something that could actually be possible? Now, as far as what gear I had when I attempted this, I was at 710 item level, and this is not pentamelded, this is not properly melded, because I did stick with primarily red materia, focusing more on critical hit and determination. So, even at this item level, I was able to get to the 5th floor. If you're doing this at 730 item level, if you're doing this at 720 item level, your results are going to be far superior than mine. Anyhow, that's going to be all from me for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If this inspires you, consider subscribing. I have many more projects on the way. And I hope to catch you all next time. Take care now.